Imagine waking up tomorrow and noticing something is different. You find yourself unusually sensitive to numbers. When you arrive at school, you're handed a math test. As you quickly skim through the exam, you realize that all the questions just make sense in your head, and the answers come to you effortlessly. This is definitely not my experience. Hi there, I just graduated from Columbia University's engineering school this May, majoring in math and operations research. As someone who is fairly skilled at math and even enjoys studying it, people often assume I'm incredibly smart, and that the reason they struggle with math is that they're not as intelligent as I am. Little do they know, I actually struggled a lot with math growing up. In high school, all students had to study math. We could choose between two tracks: liberal arts, which included history, politics, and geography, or natural science, which had physics, chemistry, and biology, along with a slightly harder math test. Despite my math degree in college, many people assumed I chose the natural science track. Surprisingly, I didn't. I chose the liberal arts track because I was terrible at math and science. These subjects were just too hard for me. I couldn't understand what the teachers were talking about in class, and I had no idea how to do my homework. I still remember my first high school math test. I had no clue what was going on and told myself, maybe it's just because the material is really hard. If I don't get it, no one else will get it either. But I was wrong. I got a 49, while the average score was 78, and the highest score was 96. By US standards, I was definitely getting C's and B's in my math classes, and I thought maybe others were just smarter than me, and I was just bad at math. I got stuck in this cycle of, I hate math, so I avoid studying it. Then I'd get poor grades and hate math even more, and eventually felt defeated and dumb. If you're struggling with math right now, I totally get it. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I went from someone who hated math to becoming someone really good at it, and even learning to love it. How I practice math. When I was in high school, whenever I saw a really difficult problem, I would look at it and have no idea where to start. I would pull out my notes and textbooks and try to figure it out. After a while, I'd have some idea and write down the first step. However, as soon as I moved to the next step, I'd get stuck again. After 30 minutes, I would finally complete the problem, only to check the answer and realize it was still wrong. So, I'd jot down the correct answer and move on. This kind of process will never be enjoyable if you keep running into problems and getting stuck at every step. This will only leave you frustrated and feeling defeated. Here's the system I used in college, and it actually works. When I encounter a problem, I don't start writing immediately. Instead, I take a moment to think through how I'm going to solve it. If I realize I don't know how to solve it or foresee myself getting stuck, I simply give up. Yes, you heard that right, I give up. Instead, I look at the answer and take the time to thoroughly understand the answer key and its approach step by step. Once I've grasped the answer key, I set it aside and try to solve the problem on my own. Now that I fully understand what the question is asking, I write down each step and don't give up too easily. I make a genuine effort to apply what I just learned from the answer. Once I complete the solution, I compare it to the answer key again. If I realize I've done something wrong or I'm stuck at a point I can't quite remember, I repeat the process, understand the answer key, try the question again independently, until I get it right. A personal story. I remember in college, there was one time I encountered a particularly tough problem in my applied math class. I worked on it over and over, but I just couldn't seem to solve it. I felt utterly defeated at one point. After several attempts, I decided to try the approach I had learned earlier. Instead of stubbornly trying to figure it out myself, I looked at the answer, studied how the professor solved it. This time, it clicked. I finally understood the approach. But I didn't stop there. I decided to try solving it again without looking at the answer. And guess what? I got it right. That feeling was incredible. It was one of the first times I truly felt the shift in my learning process. I realized that sometimes, looking at the answer and learning from it is the breakthrough I needed. Why this method works better? There are a few reasons why this method is much more effective than the one I used in high school. First, it triggers positive feelings. Instead of feeling frustrated when you don't know where to start, you actually get to complete the question correctly on your own. That sense of accomplishment is what I love about being a math major. I know how to solve the hard problems, and it makes me feel good. It'll boost your confidence and intellect. Secondly, it saves you time. Previously, you might have spent all your time trying to figure out the question on your own, but you might have been completely off track. The second method allows you to spend the majority of your time understanding the answer key, which is the right way. Why math sometimes doesn't make sense? Math is different from subjects like history or literature. In these subjects, you can quickly grasp the meaning of a term you've never heard of before. But with math, it's not that simple. For example, if you've never heard of linear programming, and you Google it, the definition might read: linear programming, also called linear optimization, is a method to achieve the best outcome, such as maximum profit or minimum cost, in a mathematical model whose requirements are represented by linear relationships. And you're left thinking, what the heck is this? It doesn't make much sense initially. How to get better at math? When you're learning math, it's important to go back and fill in any gaps in your foundational knowledge. I recommend doing at least 20 practice problems a day. It might seem like a lot, but I promise you it's worth it. By working through these practice problems, you'll focus on what truly matters, what you don't understand. Instead of reviewing an entire textbook or notes from last semester, you'll zero in on what's missing in your knowledge. And as you keep practicing, you'll be putting that knowledge into action. I hope these tips help you learn math more effectively. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to leave any questions you might have in the comments.